Look at
Great.
that.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone to the Port Orchard Economic Development Tourism Committee meeting, April 12th, 2021. Thanks for everyone for your attendance. We just have a fairly short agenda today, but we absolutely welcome Mayor Wheeler to this conversation. Here to talk about what we do every year is talk about the partnership we have had with expanding the hours of operation with the fast ferry that obviously runs between downtown Port Orchard and downtown Bremerton. And so with that being said, Mayor, I would turn things over to you.
Thank you, Sean. Good morning, everybody. And you know, I just want you all to know how much I value this relationship we have. And I do believe we have the two most beautiful waterfront cities in the Puget Sound, and that means really in this country. And we have untapped potential. We know who we are, and we're just moving to be the best we can be at what makes us special. And keeping our communities connected by this ferry service, I think, is really important. We're just a little bit. You probably read in the newspaper, we've had some explosive growth in the city, and I'm using the word explosive not to. It is calculated, planned. We're meeting demand. Explosive means the demand is so great and we are so desirable that we are hiring people in our city to try to keep up. And a lot of our focus is going to be a lot of the heartbeat of our city is going to be downtown with the development of Quincy Square, which we are working on with the completion of the Marina Square project and other projects in the pipelines. I think that keeping this ferry run going maintains consistency of service. It provides confidence in our future residents and investors, restaurant investors, and developers and people who want to live downtown and in our city, that we will keep this going. And so I'm supportive of maintaining status quo, if not increasing, if that's the direction you want to go, and we would match you on that path. And so I'm also here to listen, and I just wanted though to just reinforce, and Mayor Rob and I talk about this a lot, about our two cities, yeah. So I'll stand by for any questions.
Oh, that's great, Mayor. And maybe just, I know we have some new faces on the call. This, from a historical standpoint, this is a conversation that Port Orchard and the city of Bremerton have had for years and years and years. And it's us funding, additional service when Kitsap Transit isn't normally running their vessels. And historically speaking, we've done a really good job at collecting data and analyzing the data, and where we see our largest upticks have been surrounding the weekend festivals that are so commonplace in downtown Bremerton and downtown Port Orchard. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think last year was the first year we did not extend the service. Obviously, because we were in COVID times and everything was shut down, we just felt like that probably wasn't the right time. Not speaking on behalf of this entire committee or the city council, I too believe that this is a powerful vehicle, no pun intended, to connect our two cities. And so I'm glad we're having the conversation again, and to start talking about when is the right time, and is there a demand of services that makes this a wise investment, right? I know it's been in the past, and it's something we should continue to analyze moving forward. So, Mayor, have you sat down with your team and come up with any sort of a recommendation as you look forward to this summer on what that may look like, or is this just kind of the first conversation?
So, okay, so Sean, are you pointing at Rob or me?
You.
Okay, this is the first conversation.
Okay.
It's and so this is something I'm in charge of. The council's put me in charge of making decisions for economic development, business expansion. And so this to me, and I'm sure our council would agree, it's a no-brainer to maintain the status quo for the reasons I mentioned. You know, a lot of this is investor confidence for both of our communities that we will maintain, you know, basic services like this connectivity here. And that way, when folks they come into the city and our cities lay down lots of cash, they'll know that we'll keep things going, and we'll make sure we are positioned for a recovery whenever the downturns hit. They happen, you know, but
Yep.
obviously this COVID's been a big one. But positioning ourselves to just in this way is really good for our cities, and that's a philosophy of mine.
So Mayor, am I hearing you say that if we went back to the proposed schedule in 2020, that's basically what you're looking at a minimum for 2021?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor Rob.
Yeah, and as I typically do, I agree with Mayor Wheeler on this, that I would like us to see us return to what we funded previously and the schedule that we fund, you know, the Sundays and the extended hours on Friday and Saturday night. I think trying to get back to some normalcy. I would also, you know, at one point in time, the Port of Bremerton contributed a little bit of money, a couple $1,000s, I believe it was. They've dropped out in the last few years, you know, and in that model, Port of Bremerton kicked in some dollars, and then the two cities split whatever the cost was, because we have some fare box recovery that we get, so we don't know the exact dollar amount, but we have a range. And you know, if we got a little bit of money from Gary's checkbook, and then, you know, the two cities split the difference, I think that's a win for everybody, because the port has the two marinas, and to get people back and forth and get their guests and their marinas to the fabulous restaurants over in Port Orchard would be great.
Beck Ashby, you had a question.
Right. Because we have some new people involved, I was going to give a little bit of the history, in that we used to do this many, many years ago, and then it was discontinued, and we started it up again, I'm going to say 10 to 12 years ago. And at that time, when we started it back up, we did Friday and Saturday nights and a 10 to 2 run on Sundays. We found that the Friday and Saturday nights were not being used. And so we went to a Sunday schedule from 10 to 6. And what we have experienced over the years is the ridership is greatest, as Sean mentioned, on weekends where there are festivals involved, particularly the Blackberry Festival, Labor Day weekend, because Port Orchard does something on this side also. We see a little increase on the Memorial Day weekend festival. But what had happened last year, the city of Port Orchard has always funded the Sunday service out of our LTAC dollars. And last year, that was not totally supported by the LTAC committee. And at that point, we decided to fund only the festival weekends. And then with COVID, that was discontinued. So I don't know that Port Orchard has considered yet our funding source. And Brandy and I have at my fingertips historical numbers. And I think people would be surprised to know that the ridership is not necessarily what you would think it is. And I have always supported the foot ferry because I thought that connection was critical. And I thought it was something that the city of Port Orchard could support out of our general fund, or supplement out of our general fund if we needed to, in addition to the LTAC money. But in 2018, our Sunday ridership, the other thing we did is we used to start Memorial Day weekend and go through Labor Day weekend. And again, the first 3 weeks of June, we did not see much traffic. And so then we started the process the weekend of our parade, the last weekend in June. And we basically had watched ridership not increase, but decrease over time. And part of that was the hours that we were running. So I really think we also need to look at the total cost and what days are you actually talking about, and what is your anticipation of ridership on those days. And what has happened in the past is people cannot use their ORCA cards, so it's a cash only transaction. And that becomes a bit of a marketing issue for us to make sure people understand that this particular day is separate from the rest of the days the Foot Ferry runs. I'm going to let Fred talk. I see his hand is up.
Thank you. I agree with much of what Becca said. I have a different outlook on this because I personally love the Foot Ferry. And when I moved here, like over 20 years ago, I mean, some people still think I'm a newcomer to the area. It was the Horluck. It went till midnight, 7 days a week. You could go back and forth to Seattle. It was wonderful. And so I really miss that on a personal level. And I think one thing that I completely agree with Becca is that it is a wonderful connection, but it's sort of like a chicken and egg. We anticipate that there's all this potential use and synergy between the two cities and the downtowns and the residents. And we haven't quite seen that in the usage. For example, we were telling a couple of the restaurants would tell us that they could tell people to come from Seattle and they could come to Port Orchard for a meal and get back, using the Foot Ferry on a Friday and Saturday. And that's great. In reality, there wasn't a lot of that we saw, unfortunately. And one thing that we also realized historically was that even if we funded it, whether out of LTAC or another source, we lacked the marketing to let people know that it was available. And not only that they would have to have exact change or cash, but that it was even there or that it was every Sunday. So that's one thing that we could really work on, is letting people know whatever the schedule is. And I would also encourage the mayors to talk to our county commissioner, because at one time Kitsap County also did kick in a little bit of funding. They felt though that since they weren't a city, they weren't getting most of the benefits. So they wanted the last in type position where they would kick in at the last portion if there was a need. And I'm sure you could sort of remind them that they get the lion's share of any sales tax, or they get more than the cities do at the county level. But I would say that I'm glad we're having this conversation. I think we would like to see it happen, but we need to know that there will be more usage, or that people at least know that it's available.
No, Fred, and I echo your sentiments, what you just said about the promotion and the marketing, right? There's more we can do to make it known. And, and to Mayor Wheeler's point, right? The more that something's reliable, right? That people know that this is operating and it doesn't change all the time. When things become unreliable, you tend to forget about it and you make other arrangements. So I think if we can move towards a more consistent approach, increase marketing and awareness about around this. Our cities have changed drastically in the 5 years, both Bremerton and Port Orchard. We have many, many new residents here that might not even understand what this looked like 10, 15 years ago, the story that Fred just said. And so I'm glad we're having the conversation. I think it's time to dust it off and take a look at that.
John, if I may, to one
Yep.
thing that's changed January 1st, and I'm not certain that we can, but we should investigate too, whether Kitsap, we can use ORCA cards now on the extent, because
I was going to
Kitsap
ask that
Transit
question.
now operates this, and it's not a contract service any longer.
Yep.
So, and I don't know the answer. They're usually my best ideas are wrong.
Okay, with that question, if it's a Kitsap Transit service and not the contract service with Kitsap Harbor Tours, will we have the same rates? Because now we'll be going to a union shop. And will there be a difference in the rates that we're charging?
Marine operation is not, I don't know the answer if the rate, but it's not a union shop. on the ferry side.
Okay.
Gary,
Yeah, I just think that people are behaving differently right now because of the COVID thing, and everybody's anxious to get back to a normal life and get out and do things. And I think taking a strategic approach to this idea at this point, start with a clean slate and try to maximize it without discouraging any users by tailoring the additional runs to events that are occurring more so than just blanket putting out there all the time. But everybody's right. The cities have changed. They are currently changing. There's more venues to attend, both in Bremerton and more things coming up in Port Orchard. And we need to introduce people to those things or reintroduce them to them again, but make sure we do it in a way that they walk away with a good experience. When we were, working on the Fast Ferry program to get ready to launch that, there was a number of comments that came back that Port Orchard really didn't have much to offer. So, people would come over here and they didn't really get a strong experience. But that's changed dramatically and continues to change. So this might be a good opportunity to sort of relaunch the idea.
John, can I comment?
please.
Becca's right. Quite a few years ago, I think when I was still at the chamber, POBSA tried to help market the foot ferry, and I think that's pretty important and necessary. And POBSA could help do that again. I'm not sure how that would look, but it's hard. We can't really use LTAC money to get people to come from Bremerton, but we can work on marketing it. And no offense to Greg and Bremerton, but honestly, at this point in time, I think Port Orchard has almost more to offer for people coming over from Bremerton. Downtown is busy, and we do, even without events and festivals, and we have more stores opening downtown. On the other hand, there are no movie theaters in Port Orchard, and there's one in downtown Bremerton. So, I hope that you can work something out to find the funds to have service this summer.
Just to comment a little bit on what Corinne said, is a few years ago, and I would have to say more than 8 years ago, POBSA actually offered free trips back and forth. And we had coupons. We had a rack card that showed all the events and described both cities, and we had a tear off coupon at the bottom. And passengers would use that and get on the boat, and then POBSA would reimburse Kitsap Transit for those dollars. And that was marginally successful. I know that I personally was distributing those, and I distributed them mostly on the Bremerton side because I was wanting people to come to Port Orchard. And we also found our greatest source of those, usage of those, was at the two marinas. The marinas were the two that were always calling me and asking for more coupons because of their weekend visitors that they would want to get back and forth. So that's just one of the things that we did in the past for marketing, remembering that it's your residents downtown that are going to be using this service. Someone is not going to drive from Manette or Silverdale and park in Bremerton just to ride the foot ferry to Port Orchard. Once they're in that car and mobile, they're going to come all the way around, because remember, we're talking only about Sundays. And the same with the folks at Port Orchard. Once they get in the car, if they have to drive in the car and find a place to park downtown to get on the foot ferry, they're more than likely just going to go ahead and drive to Bremerton. So you have to be very realistic on who your audience is. And basically your audience are folks that are within walking distance of the foot ferries.
Okay. Mayor Rob, do you want to work offline with Mayor Wheeler to come up with maybe a proposed schedule for 2021? Does that make sense, and bring it back to, I guess, like each council for their consideration?
Sure. Would it be, Gary, are you willing to participate at some level and want to be involved in this process?
Yeah, I'd help out. Sure.
Okay.
Mayor Wheeler, does that kind of satisfy why you came here today? Is this a good next step forward?
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree. I'd love to debate with Corrine about what we have going on downtown, but I think we all love our communities and we think they're the best. And I totally get it. So,
You know, we have interest in Bremerton too. So
yes, I know. That's what's cool. Yeah, I'm totally supportive, and we both have huge projects coming downtown. I mean, they're transformational projects, and I think positioning ourselves today in the current climate shows resiliency and forward, a forward thinking ideal. I know when Quincy Square's fully developed, our goal is to have it completed next year. It doesn't stop there. Implementation, you don't invest $5.5 to $6 million in a public square and then just kind of let it be a random gathering place with no coordinated year-round activities, music or any other art expressions. And so that's when focused, targeted marketing comes into play and event organizing. So it's going to be both. I'm not sure yet what that looks like. It sounds like one person full-time would need to manage it. And I think that's when we kind of leverage all of our what we've got. We bring it out. We show why we need to be connected, because we're going to just draw people from around the community and they'll just come in for an afternoon or an evening. And so then we try to create an experience for them. And that's what's coming. It's but appreciate working with all of you. We're on the same page. And I look forward to working with Commissioner Gary and Mayor Rob.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Before we move on to the next agenda item, did anyone else have any parting comments on this subject matter?
Sounds to me like Greg and I need to coordinate a meeting, including Commissioner Anderson and potentially a representative from transit, so that we can understand their changes and work on the cost. It doesn't do any good to have a schedule if we don't know what the cost of that schedule is going to be.
That's right. Yeah, bring back a proposal that includes all the different numbers and hours of operation, so on and so forth. Great. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your input on this item. Our only other item today is just kind of a standing agenda item where we just kind of talk generally about the state of the, and anyone that needs to bow out is free to go.
Okay.
Thanks,
I'll go ahead
man.
Sorry to interrupt, Sean. I'll bow out unless anybody has one last couple questions for me, but it's good to see you all.
Good to see you.
Okay.
Thanks.
And Sean, I only got a couple minutes before I have to go get on to testify. If you want to, just a little update on the community center. I don't have
Please.
much to share.
Please.
And so as you're hopefully aware, we're negotiating a purchase and sale with the bank at this time. We presented our offer. Sean and I last week went and met with the bank in person to there were some misunderstandings about the timing of the money and why the dates that we picked. And I think we had a very productive meeting with the bank, explaining that, a piece of this money is coming from the state capital budget, which it's in the Senate version of the capital budget. And then there's also the appropriation that Representative Kilmer, Congressman Kilmer, that's another piece of it. So we had a really cool meeting with Rice Fergus Miller, and I think it's in May. Is that not correct, Nick? That they're going to be on the work study. If my memory serves me right, in May. I think that was the date. And they talked concepts, and these concepts are evolving. But some takeaways that were important from those concepts that they plan to share with the council, as the importance of the plaza and the open space on the street side of the building, to activate this thing throughout the day. Our sun rises on the street side. And if you're going to have somebody sit and have a cup of coffee, if they're in the shadow of a building on a day like today, they're probably not going to do it. But if there's some seating and some space on the street side, they're more apt to sit in the sun and you know, some of the concepts, the ability to see through the building potentially. I mean, we don't have a design yet, so whether that's possible or not. And then some elements around the Marina Pump Station that screen the Marina Pump Station, but maybe speak to our history and our environment were some ideas that were thrown out. So Nick, did I miss? I mean, those are the broad concepts I think that we heard.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah. So anyway, lots of good stuff going on, and I think we'll see some actual elevation concepts next month at the work study was the goal, and that's what we're working towards. So I look forward to sharing that with you as soon as they're prepared.
Fantastic. Thanks for that update. I know you've got to race to another meeting.
Yep. See ya.
Again, getting back to our other agenda item is typically every month we just kind of like to hear from any of the other community members that are on this call and just kind of state of our local economy, what we're hearing from our business operators, our owners, if there's anything we as a committee can do in response to some of those questions, concerns, or updates. So it is any updates that anyone would like to share today. Corinne.
Yeah. Just to go hand in hand with the Community Event Center, Steve is involved in the private end of it with the master plan, and we have a big investor meeting this week, as a matter of fact, on Wednesday. So there's a lot of people out there who are interested in investing in Port Orchard.
Perfect.
Although it's not as far along, you know, we have investors who are interested in our property at the other end of town at 100 Bethel Avenue, and that's moving along slowly but surely. We also know that there's still some interest, nothing absolutely definitive, but there's still some movement on the Dragonfly building, which will be huge for downtown Port Orchard. And I just want to encourage everybody to come downtown. I mean, we do, as you know, Samantha opened another store across the street this weekend. It's lovely. Please go downtown and pop into your local merchants. There's another little shop down at the other end near Dragonfly called Hippie Witch Skincare. She's a local South Kitsap gal, graduated with my daughter. So I'm excited that people are investing in downtown. So was there something else I was going to say? I think that's primarily it. So just, you know, I think I know at least one merchant who still mentions this. They really like it when they see city council people or the mayors downtown. Obviously, it's not up to the city council to support all the merchants, but trust me, they note when they don't see one and when they do. So I know both Mayor Rob and Fred were at Friday night's VIP soft opening downtown. So just encourage you to encourage city council people to go downtown.
Absolutely. Thank you, Corinne, and thanks for continuing to share updates. You know, confidence definitely builds upon itself, and so as information is able to be shared, right? A lot of these conversations can be fairly, you know, a lot of non-disclosures involved, but when the time's right to be able to share that, so we can continue to spread the news. I know some of these massive projects, the community center, the bank, what you guys are working on residential across the street. You know, once these shovels go in the ground, I mean, I think the ripple effect is going to be huge. And so when the time is right to be able to share updates on any and all of these projects, I think it's super important.
Yeah. And, you know, I do remember what the other thing was. You know, we are looking at private property for use for a modified night markets this summer. It would be July, August, and September. That's not an absolute done deal, but because we can't, it's too hard to try to, we really can't use city property at this point in time. That might change this summer. So, and I mentioned that again, I mean, that's a 6 to 10 o'clock Saturday evening thing. So, you know, there, you know, even without events and festivals, man, there's people downtown.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to chime in with any updates? Matt?
Good morning, everybody. I am really encouraged looking at the permit reports that Carrie sent out, all the TI and certificate of occupancy permits being issued out there. I think that's something that we need to blow our horn about, the fact that, you know, in spite of everything that's going on, we are getting more businesses opening up. And I will definitely be posting about that, just the fact that we've got more and more happening, and it's not all gloom and doom. I think that's what we really need to try to focus on is the positive that's out there right now. Along that note, I know that the city of Port Orchard is scheduled to receive to the neighborhood of $3.1 million as part of the American Rescue Plan, or whatever that most recent stimulus package was. And I would really like to see again this year the city of Port Orchard dedicate some funds from that money to COVID relief for the local businesses. It has been 6 months plus since the last grants were issued to small businesses for rent relief, and it's great to dedicate all those funds to the sewer project. As it's been suggested that maybe that be done, but I would definitely like to see another 100,000 or something put together in a pot. I don't know how Keita feels about administering another grant program, but as the city council gets together and starts discussing the use of those funds, please keep in mind support, whether it's maybe not just rent relief, but maybe it is direct utility relief. Some other types of payments to and for the local small businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, and I don't know that we can solve this on this particular meeting, but in all of my travels around, I think one of the largest problems we are facing opening up many of the businesses we're talking about, especially as it relates to services, just there is employment. You talk to any small business and hospitality businesses, and there's just nobody applying for jobs. And so while the demand is increasing, and so, just to continue to let people know that there are jobs out there, and we've got to get people to re-enter the workforce. There's been a lot of people sidelined, and now's the time to start growing. Go ahead, Matt.
So one of the things that and I don't know that it makes much difference, but if our elected officials just make a call to our actually, if any of us make calls to our representatives, encouraging ESD to re-implement the job search requirement,
right?
That might help. I mean, we're not talking earth-shattering things here, but if they just re-implement the job search requirement, it may force a few more people back into the workforce. And I don't know how to do that other than directly contact and twist in the arm of somebody at ESD. But if our legislators can pressure them, maybe that can get done, and that's a small step. I'm not advocating taking away anybody's unemployment benefits, but they need to get back to work. You're absolutely correct. Everybody I talk to.
We need to change the incentivize those that are coming back to the workforce, not those that aren't. And we need to kind of turn that upside down a little bit. So anyway, it's a big issue out there. I know throughout all of hospitality of getting service workers back to work. So anything else for the good of the order? Joe, I attended your annual meeting here. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago? Nice work there. That was informative and fun, although electronic in nature, very different from years past. But congratulations on facilitating your first session.
Thanks, Sean. Really appreciate it. We've been going pretty hard on the digital front ever since October, November, and I'm sure before that as well. We're all looking forward to brighter days. It's interesting. I just talked to AWB this morning, Matt. So that's the Association of Washington Businesses. Hi, everybody. I'm Joe from Keita. I live in downtown Port Orchard. And so side note is that chamber grant's going to open this week. I think you know that. Okay, good. And he was a little more darker clouds, and I'm a little more sunshine. I think the real challenge that the nation is facing is the risk of a fourth wave, right? Just as we head toward this finish line and we all have the ability to get vaccinated and start to build up herd immunity, jumping forward just a little bit is causing issues in states like Michigan. And obviously there's going to be an announcement today that some counties are going to get moved back to phase 2. The conventional wisdom right now is that Kitsap is not going to get moved back to phase 2, but I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But that's what I've heard around the street. So that's what's going on with me and Kita. I'm looking forward to speaking to the Port Orchard Bay Street Association this week.
I was going to mention that, yes.
That'll be really fun. And we'll talk about what Kita does. And I might opine on downtowns and their importance. I think they're pretty important. And I think ours needs a lot of love and support. Enough from me.
Thank you, Joe. Well, without any further comment, I think we can bring today's meeting to a conclusion. I don't see any last minute show of hands. Thank you all for your time. We'll be sure to get the data back to from the mayors and staff on the expansion of the foot ferry, and we'll go from there. Thanks everyone. Have a fantastic week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.